first, we will be watching a short video tribute to the late Miss Ruby Rubens, and that will be followed by a proclamation presented posthumously to her during this year's Women's History Month in recognition of her leadership and being accepted by her son, Dr. Joe Rubens, who is the principal of Kennedy High School, and he is accompanied by his wife, Stacy Rubens. So first, we'll watch a video.
A trailblazer, mentor, and true friend. Those are just a few of the words used to describe Ruby Rubens. In honor of Women's History Month, we salute Ruby Rubens, who passed away at the age of 86, February 27th. Ruby made it her passion to fight for equity, education, and housing during much of her life here in Montgomery County. She served on dozens of committees and boards as a volunteer and stayed active in assisting low-income families and confronting injustice until her death. She took up fair housing as a cause after experiencing difficulty purchasing a home in Montgomery County. That led to the appointment as the county's first fair housing manager. She was the housing chair for the county chapter of the NAACP and worked for County Executive Neil Potter as a special assistant on education, housing, and multicultural affairs. She retired in 2000 as the ombudsman for the Montgomery County Board of Education. Ruby was recognized throughout her life with many awards, including the Neil Potter Path of Achievement Award, the African American Living Legend Award, and she was inducted into the Montgomery County Human Rights Hall of Fame. Upon her death, so many of those who were touched by Ruby's dedication and grace shared their thoughts about the impact she had. From Councilmember Nancy Navarro, Ms. Rubens was the true embodiment of the equity warrior. Indeed, she made her mark on our world with passion for affordable housing and closing the opportunity gap in education that exists among our children. And from Council President Sidney Katz, on behalf of the Council, she was truly a friend who advocated on behalf of so many of our residents. Her knowledge and expertise in the areas of education, housing, and equity was invaluable and helped to guide who we are as a county today. We thank Ruby Rubens for all she did to make Montgomery County a better place for everyone.
First, let me say that it's very interesting because, once upon a time when I was basically a complete newbie in the political arena, there were people like Miss Ruby Rubens who were essential in ensuring that somebody like me would have the support, the guidance, and really the encouragement to step up as a woman of color here in Montgomery County. And I think it's important, especially for young people, to understand that there are so many leaders in our community that perhaps are not necessarily seated at particular dais like these, or names are all over the place. But these are community leaders who have the pulse of their community and are working tirelessly to ensure that issues of equity and representation are in the forefront. And Ms. Ruby Rubens is somebody that literally dedicated her entire life to being a trailblazer, but to holding everybody accountable for these issues. And I mourn her death, as I also mourn the fact that we need to ensure that that kind of dedication, leadership, encouragement, that type of stateswoman is continued in all of our communities. So I basically pose a challenge to all of us to ensure that we fulfill that kind of role in every single one of our communities. This very selfless way of just dedicating your life to ensuring that things that you would think are very difficult or impossible are not. And so there are so many things that we take for granted today. The people like Ms. Ruby Rubens was able to lead, along with so many other greats like the late Roscoe Nix and Mr. Art Williams and Ms. Odessa Shannon and all of those great people. But in particular, as a woman, and as we celebrate Women's History Month, I really felt strongly that we needed to do this to just send a message to her in heaven that we are going to continue her work. So we're going to read this proclamation. and we'll share it. So I'll start with saying that Montgomery County, Maryland, whereas women of every race, class, religion, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of Montgomery County, Maryland, our nation and the global community in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas in the United States, women have been leaders, not only in securing their rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements which create a more fair and just society for all.
And whereas these achievements have been critical to the growth and development of our economy and culture and artistic impact, our social advancement in all areas of accomplishment, and whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history, and whereas while we may have made great strides toward equity and equality, we cannot rest until our mothers, sisters, and daughters assume their rightful place as full participants in a secure, prosperous, and just society. And
whereas the 2020 Women's History Month theme is Valiant Women of the Vote, the theme honors the brave women who fought to win suffrage rights for women and for the women who continue to fight for the voting rights of others. And whereas during Women's History Month, we commemorate the struggles, celebrate centuries of progress, and reaffirm our steadfast commitment to the rights, security, and dignity of women in America and around the world. Now, therefore, do we, Mark Elrich as County Executive, and the County Council and the Montgomery County Council of Maryland commemorates Women's History Month and hereby posthumously honors the trailblazing life of Ruby Rubens, who leaves behind an invaluable legacy of unmatched service and pioneering work in promoting racial equity and social justice, advocating for affordable housing and closing the opportunity gap in education in Montgomery County, signed this 10th day of March in the year 2020 by County Executive Mark Elrich and Council President Sidney Katz. And I will turn this over to Dr. Rubens, and may I say that Ms. Ruby Rubens was just so proud of her son every single time she would remind us that he was a principal and that he was carrying the legacy of education, which is the key to our democracy. So she was very proud of you. I want to say a few words.
So thank you very much, Mr. Elrich, Ms. Navarro, and the council. I will say this is still relatively new to me. My mom passed away on February 27th. I had her for 48 years, and she was on this planet for 86 years. So she was a true champion for children, a true champion for the residents of Montgomery County. She lived in Montgomery County for 52 years before her death. I will just say that on top of the work that she did on behalf of the residents and the children of Montgomery County, she was just a great mom. She was a great grandmother. This proclamation will help me tell my children the story. I have a 15-year-old and a 2-year-old, and this will very much assist in keeping the legacy going and sharing with them the great work of their grandmother. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Our celebration of Women's History Month continues, and we do have a number of really important women who are doing amazing things in our county. So I'm going to call each of you, and you'll come up, and then we'll distribute the proclamations and take a really nice photo. So first I have Daniela Perez, and she is a Northwest High School student with a passion for social justice issues. For over 5 years, she has been involved in hands-on adaptive education and activities for the special needs community. And She has, this particular work has led her to becoming an advocate so that this community has the support they need to grow, develop, and thrive. She's also on the Leadership Council for Northwest Minority Scholars Program. I know she's told me that she hopes one day to run for office. And of course, she is obviously very special to me because she's half Venezuelan. And I hope that she will follow in this old Venezuelan footsteps. So I'm trying to encourage her. But she's done extraordinary work, and I was invited to Northwest International Diversity Night, and Councilmember Rice's daughter was also there coordinating this, as well as Daniela. And I have to say that it was such a wonderful event. And I am always telling people that, as a mom, I would go to these international nights, and they were really cool. But this one was what my daughters would say, lit. It was incredible. And I was so happy to see all these high schoolers really unapologetically proud of their heritage, and the energy was extraordinary. And I think it has a lot to do, Daniela, with what you and your peers have done to organize this kind of work. So I really appreciate that. Grace Rivera Oven has held many, many civic positions. She is a wealth of professional experience, including as a small business owner. She's a consultant, writer, producer, program director, and community advocate in Montgomery County. She's a former member of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. And once again, Grace is one of those equity warriors that is always, no matter what, and I can't figure it out. Sometimes I'm like, is this like your consulting job, or is this just you driving down the street and finding somebody in need? You can't tell, but I think it's so amazing how she finds the time in a day to advocate for so many different issues in our county, and always with a huge, huge heart, and just really selfishly, once again, giving and just advocating and finding solutions for those who can't speak necessarily for themselves, but also, again, at the Board of Elections, really pushing forward, ensuring that we protect our right to vote. Because even here in Montgomery County, I know we read a lot in the news, but here in Montgomery County, there are instances that we've had to fight to make sure that people's right to vote is protected. So thank you so much. The Commission for Women, and I know that we have a number of folks here. Let's see, do we have Nicole Drew, the president, Donna Rojas, first vice president. I believe in my notes I have Tiffany Boyman, secretary, Patty McClay, commissioner, Isabel Argotti, Lucy Font, and Jody Finkelstein as well. And this commission, again, for those of you who may not know, the Commission for Women, it's such an extraordinary organization. One of the highlights is this legislative briefing that they do every year, and they really, truly go deep into and it's an entire day of panels and discussions about legislative issues and proposals at the state level, the local level that affect women's lives. They publish reports that really keep this issue of women's rights and women's issues just at the forefront. So it is an amazing asset that we have, and we are so lucky that we have also so many amazing volunteers, as well as, of course, a director, Jody, who are doing extraordinary work. Then we, last but not least, especially this year, we have the League of Women Voters. Montgomery County's League of Women Voters obviously encourages informed and active participation in government and works to increase understanding of major policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. This is so critical. I believe we have Judy Mornoff and Marsha Bond. Yeah, everybody just kind of come this way, to the right, to the right. And the president. Please come over, whoever's here. This, again, I think particularly this year, of course, every year, but particularly this year, as we know, we are gearing up for a very important election. The League of Women Voters is always there to distill a lot of information, and I love their guides because so many people have to try to decipher, who stands for what. And I believe that this particular organization, again, elevates women's participation in the civic process and women's participation in electoral process, but also ensures that whoever's running for office also has an opportunity to explain how they will stand on certain issues. And it's just a tradition that is absolutely amazing. So I know this is a little bit of a long proclamation, but you know what? It's Women's History Month, so there you go. That's how we do it. So everybody has their The proclamation, I'm going to turn over to County Executive first to say some words. The proclamation has the same text and some of the words that I said here, but I want him to also talk a little bit about, his vision as well and support for women here in Montgomery County, and then we'll turn it over to our panel.
So this is an amazing day. I guess it wasn't that long ago you wouldn't be able to do this, or nobody would have thought to do it. So we've come a long way. We're not quite where we need to be. Hopefully this is the year that the ERA, once and for all, finds its way into the law. We are on the verge of making that possible, and now it's up to Congress to finish the job, and this is one of the jobs that Congress really needs to finish. And I just, think it's critically important in a society to acknowledge the full citizenship and rights of every member of society, and not just half the members or somewhat half the members. I'm never sure whether we're 49% or 51%, but it's close and it's basically half. Women play an amazing role in this county. I have many women in my upper leadership. They play a really important role. They bring a different, sensibility and I think sense of urgency to some issues. And I've always found the council of the women leadership in this county. Ruby Rubens, is another example of those people who just played a vital role. I mean, we didn't mention the group of 1977, which is another group, men and women, but lots of women who stood up and tried to make Montgomery County different, and they were a real voice. I remember in the early days of that group, they actually made the school board and the county council nervous. And when they stood up and asked for something and said, we want to talk about something, there was a sense that people had to listen. And it is important that people feel they have to listen. And your presence, your activities politically, socially, make it urgent for anybody who's thinking about making public policy to understand they have to listen to the voices of women in this community. You're here to be a part and you're here to lead, and we have great examples of leadership in women here, and we're going to keep having that example. And I just want to say that we'll support this as county executive on my side of the street, and I know that it's supported on this side of the street, and we're going to send a message to the residents of the county that we value this, we understand the importance of Women's History Month. I would say as a school teacher, I had to explain the absence of people, and one of the lessons of women's history is actually explaining the discrimination against women. Instead of letting kids wonder where these people were, I always felt it was my job to tell people why they weren't there. That if you're blocked out of the schools and you're blocked out of the arts and you're blocked out of politics, don't be surprised when the walls look like it's a lot of men. It's not because men were better, it's because men figured out a way to exclude women from the opportunities. And that's one of the other lessons of Women's History Month, not just where we have arrived at, but where we came from. And it's been a long way, and we still will keep moving. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, I'll be remiss if I didn't say that I'm the only woman on the Montgomery County Council. And in the Democratic presidential situation, now we don't have any women running. So it is important. It is really important for us to understand that this is not a given, and that even though we've come a long way, actually, we're at least here on the county council, and now in this, presidential campaign, doesn't seem like we are staying true to that commitment. So I guess it's a challenge for all of us to do our part to make sure that, when I leave in 2022, that more women sit back there, and that also when we have the next opportunity that we elect a woman president. So with that, very quickly, because we have other things we have to do real fast, Daniela, I will have you speak first, and then we'll go down.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. First and foremost, I would like to thank my parents for all the sacrifices that they make every day to do the best for their daughters every single day. I would like to thank my school community for always supporting me, and the Great American System for making this possible and making my voice heard. Thank you.
All right, Grace.
Very quickly, thank you, Councilmember Navarro and the council members and Mark. And I had the pleasure of meeting your mom, and she was truly an inspiration and a trailblazer. And and very honored to have called her my friend. Just thank you so much for recognizing women should be recognized every day of the year, every minute and second of the day. But I want to say thank you to my my son and my daughter who's here, my mom who's watching, and my husband. As women, we are jugglers. We do a lot of things. We are moms, we are daughters, we are friends, we are professionals. And I think we are at a point in history that hopefully the next generation can pick it up and we can see more women in leadership. I'm looking forward to that day when my president is a woman. Not just because of the gender, but because we can recognize that women can do anything they put their minds into. So the best thing we can do as moms is to raise strong women who believe in themselves and strong young men who believe in women. Thank you.
Commission for Women, Nicole.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, Councilmember Navarro and County Executive Elrich, for always supporting the women of this county and the Commission for Women. First, I also just want to try to, every time I think about this, get a little emotional, but I do want to thank you so much for honoring and acknowledging the work of Ruby Rubens. I mentioned to you on Sunday, she was just a treasure, a great sorority sister of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, but also just a good friend and also a role model for advocacy. Not just for women. She told me that she started because she was advocating for her son in school. And, but just someone to model for advocates in the county. And so I just want to say thank you again, just, for acknowledging that. To all of you, thank you for acknowledging Women's History Month. And I think this is something that is great to do every day, to remind people of the power of the woman, not just through our votes, through our advocacy, but also, and just another shout out, thank you for having the women in your leadership in your administration. And definitely we look forward to seeing more women on our county council and represented in all areas of leadership. So thank you again.
League of Women Voters.
Thank you very much for including the League of Women Voters in honoring and the focusing on the importance of the vote. The League of Women Voters was founded by suffragists. Their goal, and ours ever since, has been to protect, expand, and make real the right to vote, and to provide the nonpartisan background information to make our voters informed voters. Thank you again.
All right. So now we're going to do the photo, and I think maybe if my colleagues can stand since we have a nice group.